Jefferson's life that we get from his autobiography is very carefully edited and cultivated.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the darkest secrets from some of the past's most famous figures.
In terms of ruthlessness, bloodlust, Stalin remains one of the greatest villains of the 20th century.
Charles Dickens.
Everything in order, Mr. Dickens? No, it is not!
You'll probably know the author Dickens for his famous novels like Oliver Twist and A Christmas Carol. Well, behind the scenes, he was quite fond of the occasional prank. This included telling strangers incredibly long and confusing jokes. His most infamous prank was grabbing a random woman at the beach, then almost drowning her. Dickens declared he loved her, and therefore they should drown together. His wife tried to intervene, but it didn't seem to stop him. Other secrets of his include a magician persona, having an affair with a woman 27 years younger, and another with his sister-in-law.
She is the mother of your children. How could you be so cruel to her?
And for that I shall always be grateful. But I do not love her. She comprehends nothing.
King Edward VIII. He was one of the shortest reigning kings in history, ruling Britain for only 326 days. Edward stepped down to marry a divorced American woman, an outrageous scandal in 1936.
I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility without the help and support of the woman I love.
That wasn't his worst controversy, however. It was instead his suspected Nazi sympathies. In 1939, he made a public address to, quote, come to terms with Nazi Germany, which the BBC refused to broadcast.
That twisted ideology of Nazism, that appealed to him.
Some historians believe he further collaborated with Nazis during the war, encouraging the bombing of Britain. These were revealed in the Marburg Files, but Winston Churchill and others suppressed them to minimize scandal. As such, we may never know the full extent of his fascist sympathies.
Even his weaknesses and his character didn't really prepare me for the sheer audacity of the way he behaved.
Pablo Picasso.
We've all been there, scrolling through our daily feed only to discover that yet another person whose work we've at some point appreciated has said terrible things or committed odious acts.
In the 20th century, Picasso became one of Spain's most famous artists. Most of us are familiar with at least some of his work, but fewer of us are aware of how misogynistic the man was. Nowadays, people are becoming increasingly aware of his toxic tendencies. Despicably, he once said, quote, there are only two types of women, goddesses and doormats.
Picasso's mistreatment of women and flagrant misogyny has been no secret to anyone who has studied his work or read anything about his life.
There are many stories of him being abusive towards women, including having an affair with a teenager while he was already married, only to cheat on her later on in life as well. It was barely discussed during his lifetime, but it undeniably leaked into his artwork. It's ironic when you learn that he was a staunch communist, an ideology often tied to feminism.
Can we divorce the art from the artist? And should we?
Ulysses S Grant. The 18th President of the United States and a Union Army general fought hard to abolish slavery.
Grant is the unheroic hero of our greatest national epic.
Despite opposing slavery, there is sufficient evidence to say he harbored racist beliefs. As president, he allowed white settlers to take indigenous lands. He favored the assimilation of Native Americans, which is considered cultural genocide. Additionally, Grant was the last president to own a slave, whom he thankfully freed. In 1862, he controversially issued General Order No. 11, which forcibly expelled all Jewish people from his district.
The most anti-Jewish official order in all of American history, the only time Jews as a class have been expelled.
In 1871, he hoped to move all American people of color to the Dominican Republic. Grant thought this was an ideal solution to racial tensions in the South. John F. Kennedy.
Jack's promiscuity, is learned as a young man from watching his father.
They had a sense of entitlement about what they could do that other people couldn't do, what they could get away with.
JFK's presidency was monumental for a few reasons. He was Catholic, only 43 when elected, and also the last president to be assassinated.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
To make him more likable, he kept a lot of secrets. For instance, he had constant affairs. The most famous was with Marilyn Monroe, but he also slept with women associated with mob bosses, at least 2 rumored Soviet spies, a few actresses, and some White House secretaries.
There's no secret that he was cheating on her constantly, and she was aware of it. She looked the other way, in part because that was how she was raised in the upper echelon of society to accept it.
Alongside this, JFK had major health problems, which he treated with a wide range of narcotics. This was because he suffered from Addison's disease, caused by steroid prescriptions when he was young. As such, it had to be kept top secret. Alexander Graham Bell. In the 19th century, his invention of the telephone made him one of Scotland's most famous figures.
Watson, come here. I want to see you.
I heard you. I heard what you said.
Outside of inventing, he dedicated a lot of energy to researching eugenics. He specifically concerned himself with deaf people, whom he was strongly connected to as both his parents and wife were deaf. Bell believed that if deaf people married other deaf people, then a, quote, deaf race could arise. While eugenics was a popular study at the time thanks to Darwin's recent research on evolution, Bell also focused on the education of deaf people and has been criticized for, quote, supporting ideas that could cause the closure of dozens of deaf schools. On a less horrifying note, he had a 30-year-long interest in breeding a sheep with 4 nipples. Thomas Jefferson. The United States' 3rd president can be highly revered in the States, but had a dark side few discuss.
Jefferson's life that we get from his autobiography is very carefully edited and cultivated.
Despite the Constitution stating all men are created equal, Jefferson believed some were more equal than others. During his life, he owned over 600 slaves. At his dinner parties, he took great effort to hide them. This included a fireplace panel where they would deliver wine, and guests would receive food through revolving doors. Even though slaves were responsible, guests would never hear or see them. Jefferson also secretly fathered multiple children with one of his slaves, Sally Hemings, as proven by later DNA tests.
Felt about him? Who knows? Being owned is not exactly a desirable state of affairs.
Joseph Stalin.
In terms of ruthlessness, bloodlust, Stalin remains one of the greatest villains of the 20th century.
Almost all aspects of Stalin were exceedingly horrific, regardless of whether they were secret or not. Publicly, he hated capitalism and all things Western. In private, he was a huge cinephile who loved Hollywood movies. That's pretty tame compared to his secret prison outside of Moscow, the Sukhanovskaya prison. In its 14-year existence, it had 35,000 occupants, and few of them survived the experience.
Я провела более 6 лет в сталинских лагерях. За что до сих пор не знаю.
Towards the end of his rule, he fabricated a plot that Jewish doctors were trying to assassinate officials. Stalin used this as an excuse to do horrifying things to Jewish Russians, but thankfully died before it escalated. Given his nature, there are probably even more disgusting secrets we'll never know. Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler was a fanatical leader, a megalomaniac who led his country and many others into the abyss.
Widely regarded as one of history's most evil villains, it's no shock that he had some despicable secrets. Publicly, he didn't smoke or drink and was also a vegetarian. Secretly, he was highly addicted to opiates. This is why there are so many videos of him shaking wildly. It was initially believed to be Parkinson's disease, but it's now thought to be withdrawal symptoms. He also became highly wealthy through a variety of schemes. These included tax evasion and making his government buy piles of Mein Kampf for royalties. Publicly, he was celibate, but reportedly he had affairs with numerous women, who were often ones he found easy to control. One was even rumored to be his half-niece.
We'll be endlessly fascinated by what A drove him and B, why the German people decided to follow him.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. King Leopold II of Belgium.
European countries participated in the so-called Scramble for Africa. They colonized 90% of the continent, exploiting African resources and enriching their countries.
One of the most brutal men in history was Leopold II, who personally owned the Congo Free State for 23 years. It's very rare for a colony to be owned by one man, and Leopold proved it was a disastrous idea.
Leopold II, wanted to acquire what he called a slice of this magnificent African cake.
It was a disgusting regime, which caused the deaths of millions, but was kept largely secret. That was until E.D. Morel and Roger Casement made the horrors public, causing a huge international backlash. The king denied many of these claims, but the evidence said otherwise.
Yet it took the recent emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement to question why Leopold is still celebrated in Belgium.
Were there any particularly egregious secrets we forgot to mention? Leave them down in the comment section.
I think Stalin's image today is increasingly concentrated around his role as one of the greatest mass murderers of the 20th century.